The fact that
Right.
you say he might not be ready for opening day allows Yankee fans to throw a tantrum and go crazy about the whole thing.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian.
Stacey, a frustrating day for Yankee fans already.
Yeah. I was going to say happy Monday, but sure, let's start there with it being frustrating. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos at the bell so you're notified whenever our videos go live. So it's a chock full show because position players showed up on Sunday and we got some news about certain position players and we're going to talk about it. Marcus Stroman doesn't want to be in the bullpen. He's a starter. We'll talk about that. Aaron Boone might get an extension. We'll talk about that, but we'll also talk about his bungling of his press conference or his, discussion with the beat reporters surrounding the news that Giancarlo Stanton is already injured.
Yeah, and unsure if he'll be available for opening day, which I think is the other headline in this, right? It's a double fold for it doesn't need to be, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Supposedly it's what they're calling compared to tennis elbow in both elbows somehow, which most tennis players don't get because they don't use both elbows on their forehand. But regardless, he's been suffering this apparently since last year towards down the stretch, and they don't know how long this is going to sideline Giancarlo Stanton. It has him, quote, behind the schedule, which I think is a weird term to use because I would assume that their schedule starts today or whenever they show up. So I can't imagine that he could be that far behind schedule. He certainly didn't look very hampered walking in today. I think in some ways the least surprising news you could possibly get that Giancarlo Stanton is hurt. It feels like Yankee baseball again, that he's on the injured list or he's hurt. But incredibly frustrating, right, Stacey? And me and you are not the first to ever complain about Stanton's injuries. We get it. Guys get hurt. But this is a little ridiculous.
Yeah, but this is the first time that opening day has been in jeopardy for him for his entire career. He has never missed an opening day, unless you count 2010 when he was called up in June because he didn't play opening day. But I brought this up on Blue Sky because someone made the joke of, it's the annual announcement that Giancarlo Stanton is injured and might miss opening day. And I thought to myself, as far as I know, Stanton's never missed an opening day as a Yankee. And then I went back through his entire career. The problem with Stanton isn't that he isn't ready when he gets to training camp. It's that he gets injured by say May or June. That's when things tend to pop up. So I'm a little annoyed at this narrative. Mm-hmm. Also, yes, he's behind schedule because these guys don't show up to spring training to start training. They've all started training months ago at this point. So he's behind in that respect. Okay. They also said that it's not that he's not doing things. He's just going to be on a slower path than everyone else. And it's going to be slow play is what they called it. At least that's what Brian Hoke said. So I'm all about them taking it easy with him. He's their DH. They don't need him in the outfield. I mean, it's a big blow to the DH position, but there are other guys who could possibly fill the DH position for a couple of weeks if they need it as the season starts. I can't imagine what that feels like to have tennis elbow in both elbows. And also, I was going to say that he probably got it from carrying Aaron Judge throughout the playoffs, but we found out that this happened leading up to the playoffs. So if he was playing with pain in both elbows and was still hitting home runs the way he was in the playoffs, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, remarkable effort on that part. Thank you for the clarification and everything. I have a problem, it's just the frequency of how often he gets hurt. I think maybe people are freaking out about, not necessarily opening day.
But he's just one of those guys. I agree. You can count on Mike Trout to get hurt all the time now. You can count on Anthony Rendon to get hurt all the time. You can count on Giancarlo Stanton to get hurt. And that used to be the narrative about Judge. But Judge That hasn't happened for a while. And most of his injuries were freaky injuries, like the broken rib, the piece of the rib that broke off
Stanton's are
because he
annoying
dove for a
ones.
ball. Like Stanton is usually lower leg injuries too.
Pulled
So
calf, something,
So the fact that it isn't a hamstring and it isn't a calf yet, and it's his arms is interesting because that doesn't normally happen. But again, it's not like he's completely shut down. I think they just need him to take it easy. And it's just weird hearing both elbows feeling that way.
Well, both elbows is very strange. I don't even know how that happens. But my problem with the whole narrative, and I'll get into this because I know this bothers you too. Me and you were texting earlier about this, and it really does bother me. I have no problem with the manager updating us on this. You kind of need to be. And people are going to start noticing if his regimen is not on the same pace that other guys are, and they're going to start asking. So I have no problem with Aaron Boone updating us on, he's going through this, little banged up here and there, yada, 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 whatever, updating us. That's his job. Explain to me, Stacey, why the manager of the Yankees is offering up the information that he might not, that opening day is in jeopardy for him.
Right.
Why would you do that? Why would you even set a timeline? Majority of the time when these injuries happen, the response is, we're not going to set a timeline. We're just going to let him heal at his own pace and see where it takes us. That's an easy cop-out answer without giving you an answer kind of thing. Instead, this buffoon of a manager, who, by the way, we'll discuss later, they're talking about giving an extension to, and it's inevitable that they're going to give one to, offers, without being provoked or asked, by the way, offers up the information. We don't know if he'll be ready for opening day or not. Why do that? Why create and I'll tell you this, Stacey, I don't think it's as big of a deal, the story coming out, if he just leaves it as he's dealing with some tennis elbow, is going to be a little bit behind pace. The fact that you say he might not be ready for opening day allows Yankee fans to throw a tantrum and go crazy about the whole thing. I don't understand where the need to offer up that information was. I don't get it. It doesn't register in my head. Why would you create this kind of bleak storm for Stanton? I don't understand it. It makes no sense. It creates a storm for the team, for the organization. Now, everyone's got to start answering questions. The next time Cashman talks, they're going to ask him about it because Cashman made comments previously about Stanton being hurt all the time. It creates this storm, and I have no problem, Stacey, if Brian Hoke straight up says to Aaron Boone, what's the timetable look like? Because then, you know what? You were asked, the reporter did a great job. He got more information out of you. Fine. But why are you offering up more information than is asked of you? And you're only going to put your player in a bad position by doing that. We just talked about this like 2 days ago about managing the media and how poor he is at doing it. And he screws up 48 hours into spring training.
Well, the other thing is, this isn't his first spring training. He's been doing this since 2018. You've been doing this for the Yankees since 2018. You should know better than to say something like that. And you're right about the fact that they're always so secretive when it comes to how long someone's going to be out. Like, who was it last year where they kept saying summer? And we're like, well, summer is a relative term because do you mean early summer? Do you mean August summer? Do you mean July summer, June summer? What do you mean? And the fact that he's like, opening day is questionable. Great. Let's have everyone have an absolute hissy fit now because you had to. It would have been better if he said, like you said, he's dealing with some things, and then maybe like a couple weeks from now, reveal, it looks like this might be happening. Don't do it right away on the first day that the guy shows up for spring training and put that out there.
And now he's going to have to answer questions to it. The rest of the team's going to have to answer questions to it. They're going to ask Judge about this, of course. They're going to ask other coaches, managers. Brian Cashman's going to have to answer to it. I'm sure if Hal Steinbrenner gives out an interview this offseason, they're going to ask Hal Steinbrenner about it. Why create this narrative that doesn't, why would you feed into a narrative that already exists? You are well aware that there is a Stanton is always hurt narrative out there. And even if you fully believe it as the manager, I don't care. Your job as the manager is to protect your players from narratives like that, so they don't have to answer questions to it. So your job generally as a manager in today's society, deflect. Look at all coaches in all of sports. That's all they do. Deflect problems for their players. Answer things so their players don't have to be answering them. It's strategy when they talk to the media, essentially, especially in the New York market. But why would you ever offer up more information to the media than you need to? It makes no sense. You're doing a disjustice to your player. And now Stanton's going to have to answer to this. And Stanton's going to say, I don't know if it's opening day or not. We'll see. I'm going to work hard and see where I'm at and everything like that. What if he's ready for opening day, by the way? Did we question that? It is February the 17th right now. It is February 17th. So, and opening day is a month and a half away. So what if, I'm pretty sure tennis elbow is not one of the more debilitating medical issues going on in the country right now. I'm pretty sure a guy like Giancarlo Stanton, who is in an athletic peak that most people have never seen, can probably recover from tennis elbow in a month and a half. We'll see. Who knows? But why offer that information up when nobody asks you? It doesn't make, and Stacey, like, this is his, what, 6th year managing? They're talking about adding an extension to him because he just went to the World Series. This is great. This is level 1 type stuff.
I think technically it's his 8th, right?
Sure, yeah. I don't know. It
18,
feels
19,
like 20.
20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
Yeah. You're right. It feels like a century, though.
Yeah.
This is, me or you could be managing this team, and we neither of us would have offered up that information. Even if the doctor said he might not make it back till June, we wouldn't offer that information. I just don't get it. And this is, you'd think, not even from being coached by the Yankees, you'd think he would have learned this stuff from previous injuries with Stanton. It's not like he hasn't gone through this before with Stanton.
Right.
It just makes no sense, and it's unbelievably upsetting.
Right. The other quick thing, Trent Grisham is dealing with a hamstring issue. He's a little behind. He's the backup outfielder, but that's still not great news. But, it's spring training. This stuff is going to come out. Hopefully they'll both be ready by opening day. And speaking of opening day, looks like someone might be getting a contract extension before opening day.
Yep.
We're going to talk about that in segment 2. But first, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notifications so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in our description. You get text from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades, ideas for the show. We send you news when there's signings, when lineups come out during the season, because we like getting you angry, because lineups usually get some people angry. Roster moves, breaking news. So you don't have to check social media. There's a 14-day free trial. So like I said, coming up, we're going to discuss Aaron Boone, 99.9% getting a contract extension before opening day.
In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. And if you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. There's no medical exam required. And if more affordable than you think, you can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/lockedon. Go to SelectQuote.com/lockedon today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/lockedon. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Remember that every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions underneath the pinned comment in our videos Monday through Thursday, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. Those guys get top priority during Fan Mail Friday. The link is in our description. So, Stacey, news that's been flying around of late is the fact that Aaron Boone is likely to get a contract extension before opening day. Now, we've discussed this throughout the offseason. We kind of think it's going to be, it's a guarantee it's going to happen at some point. But we still do need time to freak out about it like little children. So I guess we'll do that here. Me and you have both been vocal with our problems from him, both from in-game and post-game issues. I don't want to sit here and act like I'm surprised. I don't want to sit here and have a meltdown about it because we knew this was going to happen. So what's the case in letting our blood pressure rise? I don't understand the infatuation with it. And I will say that I think the Yankees are a little obsessed with being one of the model organizations that never changes head coaches or leadership. You know, all of the model organizations in sports, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had like 3 coaches in the last 50 years. So I get it. I understand. Generally, success matches up with coaches staying in their positions and things not changing in organizations. I'm not arguing that. there was a reason for Joe Torre to be in his position basically as long as he wanted, for the most part. I think there was a reason for Joe Girardi to be in his position for as long as he wanted. There isn't a reason for Aaron Boone to be in his position for this long. Those guys had something in common, Stacey. It was World Series championships. That's what they had won. And I don't want to, say what you want. I don't want to hear about Joe Girardi. Oh, he was built with a great team that, money bought and everything. Still won a title. The Yankees payrolls have all been higher with Aaron Boone in the years than they were that year in 09. I know inflation's gone up and stuff, but you get my point. The Yankees have given Aaron Boone rosters that are definitely good enough to win World Series, and they haven't. And quite frankly, a lot of the time, it's been because they've fallen apart in the postseason. They have simply forgotten how to play baseball. They have not been motivated, not been focused, not been in the game. Whose job is that? He can't help guys hit more. He can't help guys feel better. Can't help guys pitch better. That's on the players. But you know what? Being mentally focused in a game, that is on the manager. One of the few ways the manager can affect the game daily is by having his players mentally focused in the game. Often they're not as a team. They're not. We have done countless stories over the last year, Stacey, of how it's a country club atmosphere in the Yankees clubhouse. Whose job is that to keep that in check? Whose job is that for that not to become a problem? You couple all that with Aaron Boone just simply being awful with the media for a guy that they, in part, claim they hired because of his talents with the media and familiarity with the media, who can't ever keep it real because everything with Aaron Boone always needs to be the most a guy could start the season 0 for 35 and it would be the most positive thing in the world. I love what he's seeing out there. It's, again, I don't want to have my blood pressure rise for no reason because we know he's getting the extension and we knew this was happening. But have you ever seen a guy with a longer leash than this? I mean, ever?
Not with the Yankees. No.
It's insane.
No.
It really is crazy.
No, Hal is the exact opposite of his father. Boone would have been fired after 22.
Yeah. It's true.
After that showing in the ALCS, George would have been like, bye, nice to see you.
I know there's something that the team loves with familiarity. I get it. And you don't want to create a big storm by changing managers year after year after year. I understand that. And I'm not arguing against it. There is something to stability with an organization. That means something in sports. Clearly, there's a lot of evidence around sports that works. So I'm not arguing that, Stacey. But he's had plenty of time to prove that he's not particularly effective in this job. And I don't want to hear the argument of how many games he's won. Because quite honest, I'm going to be that person. If you bring up the argument of how many games he's won, I don't care. That argument to me is useless. That he's won X amount of games in his 8 years. Who the heck cares? Again, a garbage can could have won 500 games in the last 5 years to this team. They've been that good. They're stacked with talent. They're gonna win their games. It's not the point. The manager in baseball, while I think is one of the least important coaches in sports, does have major responsibility. And at the end of the day, Aaron Boone fails at a lot of those major responsibilities. He just does. He's not effective when it comes to things that you really need to be effective. Has the job changed over the decades? Absolutely. It is not close to the job that it was in the 1970s and 1980s where daily on the field stuff mattered with the manager. That's not even, half the time, Aaron Boone's not even making the lineup. Now, I know Aaron Boone claims that he has ability to change guys in the lineup. He ain't doing that. The lineup comes down from upstairs, and he takes that lineup every day and just hands it out to the umpires, and that's what he goes with. He doesn't have any idea what's going on with the lineup, and quite frankly, the Yankees don't want him to. So that's fine. I get it. But, Stacey, I mean, we sit here every year and complain about this, and every year they have an opportunity to move on. I mean, after 22, you're saying there was good case after last year to fire him, and the year before that. Every year there's a case to move on from Aaron Boone, and every year they move forward, and they don't even acknowledge the rumors as an organization. They move forward like, of course, Aaron Boone's our guy. Have you seen how many games we won? It's just, it's beyond embarrassing.
Yeah. Speaking of like longevity, this is what Cashman said, which I just thought to myself, this is exactly why this is a problem. He said, you always want to have the guy for as long as you can have him, as long as it's warranted and makes enough sense. I think controls the room and does a great job. We picked up his option last year, but that's not our intent. Our intent is to find an extension.
And they will, because Boone wants to be here.
Is it warranted, and does it make sense to keep Aaron Boone around this long? No.
That's the problem. And it's nice to say, But I mean, the Jets could still have Eric Mangini coaching them if they really wanted to, and they can claim, "Oh, look at our stability. We have the same coach." It doesn't mean they're winning. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals kept Marvin Lewis around forever, and he never won with them, and yet he kept the job for as long as possible. So, yeah, is the familiarity nice? Sure, yeah, it's wonderful, but at a certain point in time, this is not warranted. There have been too many mistakes, and again, Stacey, areas that the game has changed, and there's specific things the manager can really only affect when it comes to the sport nowadays. And he screws up all of those areas. So he has not done enough to prove. And I know they're going to sit behind the AL championship last year, and they're going to sit behind, they won a pennant last year. Let's not forget, Stacey, that is yet another American League Championship Series loss for Aaron Boone if Juan Soto doesn't go bananas in the last inning there. It is. All right, so I don't want to sit here and listen to how great of a manager Aaron Boone is and the stability that we have in his as an organization. Give me a break.
Cashman also said, the one thing I'm so impressed with is his temperament. There are a lot of slings and arrows coming our way, despite even last year having a nice run. It wasn't ultimately what we wanted at the end, but at the end of the day, he's handled the ups and downs, the successes and failures all the same way.
I mean, that's not accurate at all.
Someone brought up a really good point. Aaron Boone's going to be managing the All-Star game for the American League team.
Yep. Yeah, he will. And I love he handles the good and the bad the same way. Isn't this the guy that threw a temper tantrum and slammed a desk about things? Isn't this the guy that freaked that hasn't he been thrown out by more umpires over the last 5 years than any other manager in the sport?
Well, let's give him the one where he got thrown out for no reason. Last season, because someone else yelled from the bench, and because he's the manager, he got thrown out. I'll give him that. But yes, I think he means his temperament when he's handling the media, because obviously it's not his temperament during the games, because the most famous moment of his career was the Savages in the Box rant, which, set things off. So I just, like I said, Hal is the opposite of his father. It's unbelievable to me how this man, and, I mentioned 22, but you could also, like you said, make a case for after 23. They missed the playoffs. All right, bye. Nice to see you. Yep. Last year, just for putting Nestor Cortez in that game, he should have been fired on the spot, and Brad Ausmus should have been made manager. And I said that last year, and I'll keep saying it, because of all the boneheaded moves that Aaron Boone has made in his career as a Yankees manager, that was the worst one, and on the biggest stage and in the most embarrassing way. He should not have even been able to come back to New York from LA. They should have kept him out in LA.
Well, that's the best point of the whole thing. And again, there's been instances, countless instances throughout the years that you can give him a reason. I mean, I agree with you completely. You're the New York Yankees. You consider yourself the gold standard, and if the gold standard is making his bare minimum, you claim that the bare minimum every year is winning the World Series, and you flat out missed the postseason. That right there should be boom, gone. See you later. But
remember what the Mets did to Willie Randolph? They had him go out for a road trip, and then
they left him there.
Yeah.
And the Yankees picking up a guy's option after he missed the playoffs is comical, and then giving him an extension the next year. I mean, whoop-de-freaking do. But you're right. I mean, let's be real. They've made it to the World Series once in his 8-year tenure. Mm-hmm. One time. And if you're the Yankees and you claim that it's all about championships and championship or bust every single year, I mean, I can't think of a better reason to get let go of a manager if he's made the World Series once in an 8-year period. But Stacey, how about that? They finally break through. They finally get to the World Series in a really weak American League, by the way, but let's not even include that. They finally get to the World Series, and on the biggest stage, completely soils himself and makes a fool of himself with one of the only important decisions of that game, directly resulting in a loss, directly resulting in them not being able to go back to the Bronx tied 1-1. Let that sink in for a little bit. On the absolute, you want to screw up the Milwaukee series in June? Fine. It still annoys me, but I get it.
Right.
It's a completely different story, Stacey, when you wet yourself on the biggest stage. The biggest stage. And that's what he did.
Yep. We'll discuss this when the extension we'll discuss this more when the extension actually happens, because it's inevitable. It's happening.
Yep.
Coming up next, Marcus Stroman does not want to move to the bullpen. He's a starter. We're going to discuss everything that he said and what Cashman's reaction was to that statement next.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. And there's nothing better than betting the Knicks this year. You can get it on Brunson overs, Cat overs, Josh Hart's overs, especially when it comes to the three-point ball. The Knicks have been so good all year at all that. You can definitely get involved at FanDuel. And better yet, right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It's an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, Stacey, egos show sometimes, and Marcus Stroman showed up to camp. Now, it was funny what he did because we were questioning whether or not he would show up last week. He showed up for day one, took his physical, which is required by the CBA to be able to get paid, and then decided the next 2 days that he was going to take a vacation because he was more important than the team. And he needed to spend time with his kid, which I find funny because as if the other players on the team don't have children. I found that as a very interesting excuse that Marcus Stroman used for why he wasn't showing up to camp, because he was spending time with his child. Aaron Judge had a child 10 days ago, and I guess he doesn't need to spend time with the kid. Whatever, moving on. Marcus Stroman, when asked about being a starter for the team this year, decided to just flat out say, I'm not going to the bullpen. That's not going to happen. I'm a starter in this league. That's what I do. That's it. I don't know how to handle this, Stacey. I feel like I kind of called this and kind of said this was going to happen. This is par for the course with Marcus Stroman. It just is. Marcus Stroman, I think, is a very solid number 3, number 4 type pitcher in this league. At times can be a number 2. I don't think in his career he's ever been a number 1. I honestly don't. And this is what Marcus Stroman, though, carries himself and speaks about himself publicly like he is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. He does. He speaks about himself with this bravado and this ego. And I know baseball players have to have confidence and have to have ego. Not saying he shouldn't have confidence in himself. But if you've seen interviews with Marcus Stroman in the past, Stacey, Marcus Stroman carries himself like he is right there with Garrett Cole. He genuinely does. And he's not close to that pitcher. And I just find this interesting. Not surprising, but definitely interesting.
I don't know what to make of this, because they were talking about how he didn't need to report. Like the mandatory report day was what did they say it was? February 22nd, I think. If you're not in camp by February 22nd, I don't know, if you turn into a pumpkin or something happens.
You start getting fined.
Yeah. He's there. He's working out now. He missed a couple days. Okay. He said he was getting his body ready before spring training. It wasn't at least he didn't show up to spring training 30 pounds overweight. And you know what I mean?
Players do that, yeah.
So I'm not going to kill him for this, because there were the rumors all offseason that the Yankees were trying to get rid of him. And I can understand what that would do to a guy who doesn't even have 1/10 of the ego that Marcus Stroman has. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to kill him. I'm not going to kill him for this. And I'm not going to kill him for the wanting to stay a starter, because it's not that easy going from being a starter to being a bullpen pitcher. Some guys just don't want to do it. We saw, excuse me, J Happ, that infamous decision that Boone made in the playoffs. He said he didn't want to come out of the bullpen, and they had him come out of the bullpen. And
look how that worked out.
Some guys just train to be starters, and it depends on how long you've pitched. It depends on what you feel comfortable with. I understand that. I'm not going to kill him for that. It's just him saying that, compounded with the fact that he missed a couple of days of spring training, which was his right, but you don't normally see guys do that. That's the thing. That's what the problem is, if that makes sense. It's just the combination of him showing up for the physical, but then not showing up for workouts and being with his teammates, and then coming in and basically saying, I'm a starter, I'm not going to be in the bullpen. That's just not me.
Yeah, it's not a good look for sure. I do also hate the excuse of he wanted to spend time with his child. That to me is complete bogus. That there other guys on this team have kids. Like, so they don't want to spend time with their children, even though they're at camp. Also, Stacey, you're at camp working out for 8 hours a day. How many fathers are there in America? They go to work for 8 hours, come home and take care of their children and spend time with their children. None of them don't show up for work because, it's a job. I know it's different. It's baseball. It's the candy store. I get that. But it's his job. And they're not at camp from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. That's not what they're doing. Especially at this point in camp, they're there. They get a quick lift in. They do a quick jog, and then they go home. That's what they're doing at this point in time. They're not going crazy. So to use the excuse of you were spending more time with your child, I mean, dude, every other guy on this team has children. I mean, Aaron Judge showed up, was it today or yesterday? He was there, and he's got a 10-day-old child. You don't think he wants to spend time with the kid? Like, it just, that excuse to me is just, it's ridiculous to even say that publicly. It makes no sense. And there was a little bit of spackle of news that came out with him and a WFAN host who I'm going to leave nameless, that went out and defended Marcus Stroman. Oh, you got to feel for Marcus Stroman. He doesn't know where he's going to be playing. He's a regular guy who just wants to play baseball for the Yankees, and now they're gonna make him move across the country potentially. He'd have to play in a different city. Hey, dude, and Marcus Stroman retweeted it and everything. So if you want to go find it, open up an account that on a website no one uses anymore, and go find what Marcus Stroman tweeted. But Stacey, to have this unbridled sympathy for the guy because he might get traded. I'm sorry, is he not making tens of millions of dollars a year? Is he not on a $30 million contract right now? He's a professional athlete. This is par for the course. This is how sports works, dude. Like, can we stop with the pity parade publicly for the guy? I get it. It's tough. I'm not arguing that. I'm sure it's very tough to be playing for an organization and have to pack your bags and go away from your family and move to Missouri. That's the area that was used. Or Colorado, or wherever. I'm sure it's not ideal for a player. You know what? It's a pretty healthy trade-off. People move across this country for jobs that pay them $50,000 a year. Okay? It's a pretty healthy trade-off when you're getting paid $18 million this year. He'll handle it. He'll survive. He'll make his rent. So, I get it. There's sympathy for guys. It's tough. Life's not easy. But Stacey, can we stop with the complaining as if Marcus Stroman's not going to have to go through something that 95% of athletes that don't have no trade clauses have to go through? I mean, stop it.
Right. Cashman said this about Stroman. He's a competitor. He's fought his way through pro ball to being a hell of a starter for quite some time. I agree with him. He's a starter. So let's see how everything plays out. In 6 weeks of spring training, there's typically a lot of twists and turns and winding roads before you get to opening day. And then Boone said about a possible 6-man rotation. Never say never. I mean, I don't necessarily see us doing that, but we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, they're not going to do that, like we've said.
No.
They're gonna work everything possible to move him, and I think there is a part of them in the back of their head that doesn't want to. They're going to play this very carefully with what they say publicly, because they don't want to A, set Stroman off, and B, right. What if a guy goes down with? What if Max Fried gets hurt tomorrow?
God,
I mean, but those things happen. We saw with Carlos Rodon in year 1 in spring training get hurt, so it can happen. And then they're going to need a starter, and there you go. There's his slot. So I don't think the Yankees want to burn a bridge right now. But at the same time, if they trade Stroman, for a fact he's going to burn that bridge immediately. He's going to come out scorched earth immediately with the team. And fine, if that's what he wants to do, that's probably the route he takes. That's the route he normally takes. And Stacey, I get it. Like, a guy the quote is right from Cashman. For a guy that's worked this hard his entire career, not wanting to go to the bullpen and feeling he could still start, which he can, by the way, I don't have a problem with Stroman wanting to still be a starter. I get it. But the fact is plain and simple. There's no room for him here on this Yankee roster. And by the way, if he pitched to a 2.5 ERA last year, they'd make room for him on the roster. There's no room because they don't feel like he's going to perform up to the capability that the rest of the roster can. By the way, Stacey, if he was excellent last year, there would have been no desire to go out and get Max Fried for $200 million. There wouldn't have. So, and I'm not saying Stroman was poor last year at all, but to come in, again, conveniently, the rule is in the CBA, if you don't show up for your physical, then they can start fining you for missing days. He showed up for his physical, and then those days become optional workouts, so he didn't show up. Which, again, to your point, every other pitcher on the roster was there, dude. All right, don't sit here and give me it's optional for me. Every pitcher in Major League Baseball showed up for their team on their optional workout day. So, yes, it is news when you don't show up. Just like last year for optional OTAs, when Aaron Rodgers didn't show up for the Jets because he was in Egypt, it was news. It is. And even though they're optional and they don't have to be there, they should be there, especially if you're Marcus Stroman, who carries himself like he's Jacob deGrom in 2018. You should be there if you consider yourself one of the better pitchers in the league. Not saying that you're out spending time with your son as if other players don't have children out there. It's just, you sit here and juggle this and you just think, what is going on here at a certain point, Stacey? They're going to move him at a certain point, and, it's just a matter of time at this point.
You mentioned, not showing up at 6 a.m, but I will give Anthony Volpe some props. He showed up on Sunday when it was still dark out in the morning, and I looked it up, and the sun comes up at 7:06 in Tampa when the Yankees social media team, who was there really early in the morning, took the picture of him walking into Steinbrenner Field. It was dark. Same thing with Jason Dominguez. The sun had not come up yet when those two showed up to camp. So I just wanted to give my props to Volpe and Dominguez. Dominguez, we're going to actually talk about this week because there was an interesting story in The Athletic about what he's doing to get ready for playing in left field as a Yankee. So we're going to have that coming up this week. And obviously more stories from spring training. And then on Friday, it's Fan Mail Friday. So leave your questions below the pinned comment. It's going to be there. So leave your questions there. And if you're an insider, get those Fan Mail Friday questions in as soon as you can. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, and he keeps you updated on every rumor and story throughout the season. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.